What is up, guys? It's Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a full Rave melodic breakbeat track. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI presets, literally this entire full track template, every element, as well as the Ableton file, the MIDI, the presets, and the samples are all available right at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab this. This is a really high quality template, and plus it really helps support me. I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but with these sample packs and templates and stuff like this, I'm able to keep bringing you guys new videos like this every single day, showing you stuff that isn't out there. So, link is at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, guys. You'll be getting a really solid template, and let's dive in. So this is what you heard in the intro. We're at 132 BPM. You can see we have our full arrangement. It's just about like 4 minutes or so. Pretty solid length for a track like this. And I'll talk a little bit about the arrangement. So you can see it's broken into, I would say, like 5 parts. So I'll make some markers up here. We've got part 1 over here, right, where it's like just building into the track. We don't have any chords just yet. You can see the bass line just plays that first chord. Then this would be part 2. So this is when things, start to turn up a little bit more. We have this arp coming in. We're playing the bass line here. And then I'd say this is part 3. This break over here where it's kind of like slowing down a little bit. It gets a bit more atmospheric. Then it builds up. Then we have part 4 over here where it drops back into the track. And that kind of keeps going through here. Then we have part 5, which is just this little outro at the end. And you could extend parts 1 and 5 if you wanted to make it a little bit longer for like a more ravey mix or for whatever reason. But yeah, so that's pretty much how this is broken up. And that's how you want to think about it when you're working on the track, If you focus more on like these 5 parts to the track, the arrangement will make a lot more sense, right? It's not that crazy. You have 2 full drops, which would be parts 2 and 4. 2 intro and outro parts where it's some of those elements, but it's not full like the main drop parts. And then you have the middle, which is just the break without the drums and all that kind of stuff. And when you break it down like that, it's really pretty straightforward, right? And then you just want to think about it in terms of like having the 2 drops be different, right? Like this one is more focused on the arp. And then this one's more focused on the piano. Making little changes like that throughout the arrangement to keep it exciting and making sure that it's not just like copying and pasting over the same drop. So now we'll go into the actual elements. So it actually starts up here with the breakbeat. Now, this starts with the 2 most basic elements, the kick and the snare. So it's almost like a UK garage groove when I play these 2 together, but yeah, you can hear just these 2 elements on their own, and I'll also play it with the hi-hat as well. Right, like all these main elements work as their own groove. We have like this little like from this break that I sampled. So you want to get like this groove sounding good, and then you add the break beats on top. Right, and then it all comes together. If you start with the breakbeats and then try to do the kick and the snare and stuff, it's going to get a bit messy. It's not going to fit together as well. You really got to start with those most basic elements that need to punch through the mix, and then build the breakbeats on top of that. And the last element that's going on here is we actually have some little like extra background hi-hats. So here's the whole mix without those, and then I'll turn them on so you can hear. So it's super subtle, but just having that little over top of things sounds nice. And on the group of percussion, you can see we have just a high pass filter and a low pass filter. So that's just being automated throughout the track to keep this moving pretty much. And then that's also, yeah, there's a high pass on this break. And yeah, the processing is actually, you're not going to do that much with the drums, right? You really just want to focus on getting good samples that are going to sit nicely in the mix without too much over processing. Then we move to the bass. So, this is following a chord progression. And the chord progression that we have here, we're in the key of A minor actually, or F major. However you want to put it. So basically it's starting with an F major chord, A minor, G major, D minor. And then we have those notes where it goes up, which you can hear that just really like grooves with the breakbeat nicely. Right when it's like no. So that's how you can make even this like long held out bass still a little bit more groovy with the drums. And so for the sound on this one, it's made using 2 layers of wavetable. So what we've got here is I've got one which has no unison, but it's 2 oscillators detuned, and then one which is also 2 oscillators detuned. It's a very similar patch, but with a bunch of unison. And then I also have the second oscillator turned up an octave, plus this phaser on here. So if you listen to it, here there's some movement on the bass if I turn the phaser off. So you don't get that same thing. So it's a nice way to add movement without taking over the whole sound because it's only on one layer. The other thing here is you can see these filter frequencies are mapped to one macro, so you can control these like one synth. Then we just have a high pass filter which has some automation, this washout which is basically just a reverb with a high pass, and then it's just being sidechained to the kick a little bit. We also have a break bass because you want it to be a little bit different in the break, like a little bit less fat and a little bit less powerful, so when that drop hits it's even stronger. So you can see this one isn't quite as big, and that works perfect for the break. So this one's made, it's playing the same MIDI, but it's made with analog. It's 2 square waves detuned a bit, going into a low pass filter which has a bunch of automation, just keep it moving throughout the track, and then we just have a bit of glide pretty much. Then we have a little bit of erosion as well as a notch filter to kind of like shape it a little bit of saturation, and you can actually ignore reverb, and then just a high pass filter which has some automation as well as this washout which automates up at the end. Again, just a little different bass for the break. So then when this drop bass hits, you can hear the difference. Like here's the break bass, and then the drop bass. Then we have the piano. So this is playing this little pattern based around the chord progression. So again, it's the same progression I showed you with the bass line. F major, A minor, G major, D minor. What I've done here though, is you can see it's just like dun dun dun. So this here, that's just a basic F major triad where I've taken the middle note and put it up an octave, and then it switches. Then there we have the major 7th, which is a fancy way of saying one note down from the root note. Over here, same deal. This would be the minor 3rd of this A minor. Then we go root note 9th, which is a fancy way of saying one note down from the minor 3rd. So just using notes in the scale basically, and kind of like creating a melody with the chord progression. And then you just want to make sure that resolves really nicely at the end. For the sound, it's actually 2 layers. So to get this like really crisp piano, we have this house piano, which you can hear is very clear and punchy, and it sounds good, but it's missing something. So then I layered it with this house piano, which is a very different sound. This is more like an M1, which is also very nice, but it's missing something as well, and then you put them together. and it makes one very full piano. We have a little bit of chorus, a very short reverb to just give it a little bit of space without taking over, a high pass filter, my width rack, which is basically just taking the highs and adding the Haas effect and then widening the mids a little. You can actually ignore that. Little bit of drum bus, which is blended in there just to make it a bit fatter, and then just a low pass filter and some washout, which are automated throughout the track when needed. Oh, and also it's being sidechained to the kick. Then we have this bonus pad, which I'll play with the progression so you hear how that fits in. So this is this layer. And what's happening is, again, we're in the key of like A minor or F major, depending on how you want to look at it. So we're just playing this F. It's also F on this note, just an octave up. And then there's some automation actually on analog here. So you can see it's a saw wave, and then we're automating the D-tune to go down like that. So it's like a whirl. It's a very simple effect, but it sounds really nice. And then the key is you just have to get the right pitch. So just try a bunch of different notes and find the one that's going to sit really nicely over your chord progression. Because most notes aren't going to sound that good. But when you find that one, which usually is just your root note or like your fifth or sixth or something like that, depending on which key you're in, you can hear it'll really add a lot to the track, I think, and make it sound really sick. And that's also just going through a low pass filter with, yeah, like that, and then just the amp envelope is set like that. We've got a little bit of vibrato. It's distorted, a bit of reverb. I have some auto pan as well to kind of set this apart in the mix and make it stand out a little bit more. And then a high pass filter. Then we have this modular lead down here. So, it's actually not made with a modular. It's a very simple sound. It's just a saw wave pluck made with wavetable here, you can see. But what makes this sound interesting is I actually have the saturator here. And you can see I have an LFO mapped to the bass frequency of this wave shaper here. So basically we have the wave shaper, which provides that really crunchy, like kind of textured distortion. And you can hear that LFO moving, gives it that sound. If I turn off the saturator, see, it's just a really basic thing. And then if we turn off the LFO, see, it's not the same. So this gives it a really nice movement. And I called it the modular lead because I kind of treated this a little bit more like how you would work with a modular synth. You know, I think that's why you get a lot of interesting sounds with that, is because you're modulating different parameters like this. But I also want to inspire you guys to try this in Ableton. You don't really need a modular synth to just try and like put an LFO on something you wouldn't normally put it on and see what kind of sound you get out. It can be a good way to take a really basic sound like this and make it more unique. And then we have a little bit of a flanger, some delay, and reverb, which the reverb just automates. You can see to make this disappear here. And also a low pass filter, which makes it come in and out in the track. Then we have the main arpeggio. So, this is playing this pretty simple pattern. Again, we're in the key of A minor, so we're going root note, minor third, fifth, minor third again, ninth. So actually notes that we've already used in other elements of the track. It's just this very simple pattern over and over, which sounds really good when you put that over the bass line, which is changing chords. Right, like you have one static element with the arpeggio and then one that's constantly changing, and it makes a nice little contrast. So, we've got one saw wave here inside of analog. It's just a low pass filter. Now, we have automation on the filter. You can see moving it all around. We have an LFO. We have an envelope. And then I also have this reverse key tracking. So, usually the way key tracking works is the lower you play a note, the more closed the filter will be. The higher you play a note, the more open a filter will be. But actually here, it's the opposite. It's the higher the note you play, the more closed it's going to be. The lower the note you play, the more open it's going to be. And you can hear that just gives it a little bit of a more interesting kind of feeling. Like, it's a very subtle way to make this a very expressive and interesting sound. Especially when you have an arp like this, which is moving all across different octaves, you can really play up, like, with the synth, what's happening there. It's a very expressive sound. Then we just have a bit of vibrato. I've got the glide turned on. Then we have some echo, which I have automation on for this one part here. Yeah, you can hear that right there. A little bit of drum bus to fatten it up, blend it in there with the dry wet. High pass, side chain, and then just this washout for the break there. And also it makes this into kind of like a pad at the end. Speaking of pads, then we have this one. Which is just a simple pad you hear in the break to kind of fill it out. So what this is, again, if we're in the key of A minor here, we're doing the root note, the 4th, and then up here we're going 6th, 5th, minor 7th, 5th again. And it just provides this nice musical background to everything. This is made with wavetable, so it's actually just a sine wave. But then I've got an LFO on the wavetable position, so it's like moving that and you get that morphing kind of sound. We've got a bit of unison, some chorus and echo and reverb. I have a low pass filter which brings it in and out. It's constantly moving. Washout, which also helps bring it out in the end there. And then we just have a high pass filter and then also that same stereo widening rack that I showed you guys before. So there's all the synths. Now we pretty much just have like the effects and all the background sounds. And you can see I put those along the bottom. You know, when you're making a track, I think it really helps to just have all your like drums at the top, bass in the middle, synths underneath the bass, and then put all these background effects and stuff like that along the bottom, because it's going to keep it a lot more organized. If you have these all over the place, it's going to be hard to go and mix the track. But this way, it's very easy to work with stuff. And it starts with these vocals. Yeah, you can hear those, just some vocal samples with a bit of reverb and some filtering. I've got a low pass, which makes them kind of move around in the track. We have this break here. Kind of transitions thing. I also have this. This is one of my techno drum loops, actually. Which just comes in there, and you can hear that gives it a little bit more like rhythm in the break. I think in the break, obviously you don't want your full drums, but you want something to keep it moving, because if you turn this off, you can see you can actually lose a lot of energy here. But keeping that little drum loop over top of everything is really going to keep it going. We have a bunch of background effects. You can see like all these little things here just transitioning. I have actually this like build up. So we got like a snare roll, the sweep I made with some white noise. This thing, which is actually a synth one shot, and then you can see we're like automating some different parameters to kind of make it into this thing. We have just a little kick coming up. And just a few more effects along the bottom to carry it along. And yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full entire track template, the full arrangement, all the samples, MIDI, presets, as well as the Ableton file. The link is right at the top of the description. Definitely go grab that, guys. This is one of the best breakbeat templates I've heard on the market. So don't miss a chance to get it today and take your tracks to the next level. You know, I put a lot of time in over the years studying these tracks and really learning how this stuff works, and now you guys get to benefit from that. So link is at the top of the description to grab this template. Again, this really helps support me so I can keep bringing you guys new videos every single day and new content. Plus, you're supporting yourself, make your best music, because again, this is one of the best breakbeat templates I've ever heard on the market. So thank you so much for the support, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.